Well, I'm in the comfort of my own home. So
Jason wears shorts if he didn't have such a bad body.
Rough crowd.
We got to get him in a weight room, get some shorts on.
Good Lord.
Jason did something. All right. Obviously, it's homecoming. Our captains this week on defense will be Beckett and Kobe Cumberlander. Those guys are repeat guys that, of course, have been – Beckett's been every week, I think, and Kobe's been a couple of times now. So on offense, we got Knox. We got three on offense, Knox, Shelton, and Millette. And, again, like any game, leadership's going to be critical. Toughness is going to be critical as home as well as on the road. So happy with those guys, and we got to continue to get great leadership out of those guys with what's going on and keep this thing rolling.
Well, Doc, it's official. Conference USA announcing that Eli Neal, Defensive Player of the Week. You would just talk a little bit about him.
Well, I thought he's played well all year. As an entire defense. Brad and all that defensive staff have done just such a great job coaching those guys. They're really fundamentally sound. You watch them play; they tackle really well in space. And Eli, with the combination of Eli and Bo Plans, another guy that's really playing well for us at linebacker as well. So, and then of course Beckett gives us three guys in there that we really like an awful lot, and then it's helped us. But those guys have all played well.
Doc, coming into this season with those new linebackers, did you think they could be as good as they have been so far, or was that something they've just kind of emerged?
Well, I felt great about Beckett. Beckett, of course, from a year ago,
right.
We had him coming back, so we knew kind of what we had with him. And, Eli Neal was a freshman kind of flopping around out there last year, and it's hard for those guys as freshmen. The guy, buddies came in and, without having a spring ball, he saw great improvement when we started back, in fall camp. So just really pleased the way he's playing at that position. Then the kind of the ace in the hole is the Bo Plan kid. Abe, he's just he's a football player. He's a guy stripped that ball with the quarterback, on the sideline over there, and he's just a tremendous football player. It's extremely physical and tough, and so the combination of those three guys, that's been great. And like I say, with Eli coming a long way, and Ja'Cory Anderson's really improved a lot from his freshman to sophomore year. He got some reps in there as well, and the Cavalcante kid has played and made some great plays for us on special teams. So, like what we're getting out of that position, it's going to be critical we continue to get that.
You mentioned Beauplan in particular, and he's a kid that, one of those JUCO kids that comes in, but it seems like each week he's making a big play. The tackle numbers might not be there, and I know early it didn't seem like he got many snaps because you all were in more nickel and things like that. But at the same time, it seems like each week he's making a big play for you all.
No question. And started on special teams. Against App State, he made a tremendous play on the kickoff team there early on, and those guys are all playing special teams as well, which helps us with those units. But like I say, those guys, that's a credit to Jordan and what he's done with them as far as coaching them up. But those guys are playing at a really high level right now. We got to keep them doing that.
The junior college circuit, especially at linebacker, has seemed to be pretty good to you all. You look at Neville Hewitt, and he was an older guy that came in. Are there some similarities, and how difficult is that for those JUCO guys to mesh in that quickly?
Well, I think even Neville, Bo Plan, normally you get those junior college kids, and the great thing about this year is normally they play as the first year, and you look back and say, and probably shouldn't have, if you remember Arnold Blackman's and some of those guys, you look back and say, golly, I wish I hadn't have played that guy that first year and gotten 2 more years out of him. But having this year doesn't count. We got all these kids back for a couple more years now, these JUCO kids. And Charlie Gray I like a lot. Charlie Gray is making a bunch of plays on special teams. So, we've hit home runs with that linebacker position with our junior college recruiting. That's huge, and that's helped us a lot. But the Bo Plan kid, like I say, he's special.
Doc, with the top 25 thing now, obviously you were in earlier in the season, but now everybody's being ranked, all the leagues. And does it mean a little bit more now that you're 4 games in? It looks like people are pretty impressed with your pedigree.
Well, I don't think there's any question that you're excited to be where we are, but what matters is where you are at the end of the season. You look up at the end of the season, and if we're where we're supposed to be there at that point, then it means a whole lot. But, right now it's exciting. The kids I got to talk to them, and today we can't listen to the noise. You start listening to all the noise, you're going to look up and get beat, and you shouldn't. So, we got to get that fixed today and make sure our kids understand that, it's a challenge every week. And, you know, when you are in the top 25 and 22nd, whatever we are, you know, we got a bullseye on our chest every week. You know, they're coming after us. We'll get everybody's best shot, which we always do anyway. So we got to make sure that whoever we play gets our best shot as well.
Coach, earlier this week, I know you heard the news about Coach Saban not having COVID or having COVID and not having COVID later in the week. And I wanted to know, you know, he mentioned that he would be coaching from his home if he in fact had it. Do you have a detailed plan if a coach were to get it? And if so, would a coach from home?
Well, I don't think he was going to be allowed to coach from his home, you know, during the game. I mean, there's no question if something happens, you know, during the week that we'll, you know, Zoom meetings and all that kind of thing you can do and be involved. But, you know, I think unless things have changed since a day or two ago, you can't coach the game from your home. You just can't do that. So, you know, I'm sure Coach Saban, he could probably do a lot of things that I'm not sure I can quite get everything that he gets as far as his technology and that kind of thing, but we'll see.
Is there a plan in place though, if someone were to get it, and what the you know, a plan would be in case someone did get it?
Yeah, oh yeah, we've done that in practice. You know, early on during camp. I mean, we actually took a day, and you know, we've got coaches that if we get a certain coach gets it, we know exactly what coach goes where to coach that position, how we bounce people around, and who does what. So, you know, it's always a possibility. There's no questions. But you look around the country, and everybody's got issues, you know, with what we're dealing with right now. So, you know, we got a plan for that. We've worked on that in practice in the preseason camp and all that, and hopefully it doesn't get to that. But if it does, we got to make adjustments and find a way to make it work.
Hey, Doc, have you heard definitively from FAU about the game this week with their COVID and everything?
No, I haven't. And I'll leave that up to Mike. You know, leave that up to Mike. And all I know is, you know, we're going to start preparing. We started yesterday on getting ready to go play this game. We'll prepare like we're playing. And as far as I know, it's 100% go. I haven't heard anything any different at all.
How much of a concern is that with just all this stuff, all the COVID problems FAU had, and now the current ones that FIU has had, and that's your next two opponents?
Well, I don't think we can, you know, like I say, Chuck, I think early on, we got to worry about what we can control. You know, I can't control what's happening in Boca or Miami with those two teams. So what I can control is what our team is doing here as far as their preparation and getting ready to go play that game. So, you know, we're going to do whatever, you know, we're going to prepare like we always do. We'll go to work every day and work to get better as a football team. And then, you know, I don't think there's any question this game's going to – I know FAU is going to do everything they can possibly do to play this game. And I would guess if I had anything to do with it, that they'll play.
Doc, with the league championship now pushed back to later in December, would you be willing and hopeful of scheduling something maybe early December to make up some of these games you missed?
Well, I know Mike's working on it every day. And I think here in the near future, you may hear something about us scheduling a game or two. And I think the conference is also going to help us, you know, try to get that Rice game rescheduled. So we'll see what happens. And if we can get a little help with Mike with an out of conference deal and get help with the conference game, then, you know, we'll be up to 9 or 10 games, which is a good thing.
Doc, looking at FAU, how difficult is it to prepare for a team? I know that you all have got 4 games on film. They've only got 1 with what, you know, they're doing now and with new quarterback and things like that. Is there any difficulty with only having that 1 film, or is it almost like you're playing an opponent in week 1, week 2 instead of week 5 or 6, like what it is?
Well, I think it's like I talk about all the time during first games, you know, there's a lot of unknowns. And, you know, and for us, there's a lot of unknowns in this game as well, because as you mentioned, they've only got 1 game. And, you know, so what we've had to do is we've had to go clear back to, you know, Jim Leavitt being the defensive coordinator, go back to his Oregon days. And, you know, Willie Taggart, when he was calling plays at Florida State, you know, go back to Florida State tape and just try to do our research on those guys at other places they've been to see if that matched up, number one, with the 1 game that we have, and just do the best job we can do as far as researching these guys. And the other thing, you don't know what you're going to get personnel-wise. You know, who's playing, who's not playing, and that kind of thing. So, you know, there's a lot of unknowns, and it's like all first games, and not this not being a first game, but like all first games, that when you do open up, you have to make a lot of adjustments, you know, during that game on the sidelines. You know, we have to make adjustments early on in that game as to what they're doing, and we got to be prepared to do that.
Has that been one of the biggest strengths of your team this year, is being able to adjust on the fly and sort of block everything out and focus in on what's going on around them?
Well, I think number one, offensively, I think because we're mature, I think we're a mature offensive football team with what we got up front. With those guys up front, played a lot of football. With the exception of Grant, most of those guys have played an awful lot, so they can make adjustments with those guys up front. And the offensive line is probably the biggest adjustments with what you're getting, different looks or possibly different blitzes and that type of thing to make those adjustments. Defensively, we got a pretty good idea, what that quarterback's going to do. He's a guy that runs the ball an awful lot. He's going to beat you with his feet as well as with his arms. So, we'll be prepared for that part of it. But there's no question with the time they've had and the film study they've had on us, I'm sure there'll be a lot more wrinkles in that game that we'll have to adjust to.
You mentioned their quarterback, and it seemed like he was struggling early against Charlotte, and then he ripped off a big run, and that really got him into an offensive flow. How much do you all, key in on him and not allow him out of the pocket to get settled in there?
Well, anytime you got a running quarterback, you got to make sure you get. I think in the day you got to stop the run. And we've done that the last 4 games. We had the opportunity. We've been able to stop the run, and this game will be no different. I mean, this quarterback is probably very similar. When you talk about running quarterbacks, to what we lined up against, Western Kentucky, with the kid they had there, and so, we've worked on quarterback runs and zone reads and all the things that this guy does, and we'll just have to continue to get better as a defense at doing that. But going into that game, like any other game, you want to try to get stop the run, and if we're successful doing that, we got a shot.
What was their run defense successful in doing against Charlotte to shut them down? I know that coming in, it seems like their rush defense is one of their strengths.
Well, they got good players up front, and that's where it all starts. Anytime you're good as a defensive football team, it starts with personnel and players. They got. I've said all along that FAU is extremely, extremely talented football. You guys have watched them for years, and where they're located, and they should have great players, and they do. I mean, they got 2 corners. There were 2 corners last year. One of them starting in the NFL for the Steelers, I think, and the other kid's playing for Florida State. So that's their two of their corners a year ago. So they've always got a talented group. They got a nose guard in there that's playing about 370 pounds, and they're a very, very talented football team that gets lined up. Jim Leavitt's a tremendous defensive coordinator. He's been very successful wherever he's been, and he'll have him prepared for us. And we got to be able to, we got to be able to adjust and get that done.
Doc, what about your receiving core with?
I'm sorry, I lost you a minute.
You got me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I was talking about the receiving core with Corey Gamage stepping up and Artie Henry, and everybody seems to be kind of maturing at that position for you at the right time.
Well, they had to, because we got banged up a little bit there early in that game, and so we had to have and that's when you got a shot at having a pretty good football team is when you can get guys step up and get their job done. We call that competitive excellence, that you're prepared, that when you get that opportunity, you can go in there and play at a high level. And I thought Corey Gamage did that. I was proud of him. He worked all week extra with Luke and did some things extra. And it's great to see a kid that when he works his tail off all week, not knowing if he's going to play or not, but all of a sudden he gets called, his number called, and he goes in there and plays at that high level. And it's huge for the kid, his confidence in moving forward. And same thing with Artie. Artie's whole deal. Artie's a good player. He's had nagging injuries throughout his career that we can't get him healthy. So it was great to see him back in there at a full speed. And I was really proud of Shadid Ahmed, the young freshman, not a freshman, he's a sophomore, but he got 3 years left, that went in there and made some plays when he had to. So it's just great to see those young kids when they get their opportunity. And they weren't in there. They were in there in critical times early on that they had to make plays, and they did that, which is, I'm proud of the way they played.
How important has a healthy roster been to this year's success? Because when you look around a lot of teams, even the NFL, everyone seems to be banged up, but this team seems to be just about 100% so far.
Well, we're not 100%. I mean, we're like I said, we've been pretty fortunate, but we had, we went in that game and we had a couple tight ends out, which we should get them back this week. That heck, we played in there in that game. I'm sure a lot of you noticed it, but we had Hagler in there at tight end, and Amir Richardson played the majority of the game with 2 young kids that had never played. So, we mentioned those 3 receivers. You don't see those guys, but also you had 2 young tight ends go in there and were asked to do a lot of things. in some critical situations, did a pretty good job and grew up a little bit as well. So hopefully we get Devin back for sure, and get Garrett back in there along with those young guys who gained that experience. Should help us down the road. But it's always critical that you stay healthy. But this game, the way this game's played, you're going to get a guy banged up here or there, and you've got to have somebody ready to go in and play when that happens.
Well, you mentioned getting banged up at receiver, and it seemed like whenever Talik got banged up, Brock did a really good job. And I know punt returning has been a key aspect of you all making sure the field position was right. But how much has Brock worked back there? I know I saw him a couple times during preseason camp, but that was early in camp. How much is he back there working on that each day?
Every day. You got to have. He's back there every day, and Gilmore's back there every day, and so we've got 2 or 3 guys back there every day working as punt returners. So if you get in that situation, somebody's ready to go in and do it. And Brock's just a football player. Whatever Brock, you line him up, he's going to find a way to make a play somewhere. So. He's a guy we have great confidence in, as well as Gilmore, and Artie Henry's a guy that when he's healthy, and he's back there again now as well. So we got some options back there that if something happens like it did with Talik, and I think Talik will be fine this week. I think he'll be fine.
Well, and Hodge getting to the quarterback early. Hodge it seemed really active the first 3, 4, 5 defensive plays. I think he got a sack, and then got to the quarterback on Eli's interception on play 1. When he's playing at that level, how different is this defense?
Well, there's no question. I mean, I like our ends a lot, and the great thing, and JC and Cornell do a great job. I think I don't think there's a defensive lineman, including Hodge, that played more than about 30 snaps in that game. Because we roll those guys in and out of there and keep them fresh. And when you can roll Hodge and Kobe Cumberlander, who plays the same way, and you got Sam Burton and you got Owen Porter, and you roll all those guys inside. They're just fresh all the time, and they can play at extremely high level, when they're in there, and that helps to be able to roll those guys in and out of there. But there's no question that those defensive ends have done a nice job getting pressure on the quarterback, and you saw that on Saturday.
One more guy I'll mention, Jamari Edwards. It seems like because of the guys around him, he doesn't get a lot of talk, but in the trenches, it seemed like he was in on 5 or 6 really big plays last week.
Yeah, he was. He had a sack. He had it all, and he's a good player. I mean, we like Jamari a lot, and when we lost Channing Haynes, we felt like Jamari was the guy that can go in there and give us what Channing gave us, and he has. But it's the same thing with those inside guys with Kroom, and we got a young guy in there. Bush goes in there and plays really well. True freshman, and there's not too often that a true freshman goes in and is able to play and hold up at defensive line, but he's one that can. He's a good young player, and we've got a lot of good young players that are going in there. And same thing with those D-line guys. Or the inside guys. I think 28 snaps was the most any of those guys played. You only play 28 snaps. You can go really, really hard those 28 snaps that you're in there, and that helps us.
Doc Grant continues to kind of grow up before everybody's eyes. Had that interception, but came back in through two great touchdown passes to Henry and Gamage.
No question. I mean, I just love what he's all about. You love the way he prepares. He does a great job with his preparation, and Tim's doing a great job with him. Helping him grow up. But he's just extremely poised and sits in the pocket, makes all the throws, and just tickled death with where he is right now. His progress that he's made, and he'll keep getting better as the season goes along. Okay, guys.
One thing I really quick, Willie Johnson is a guy that was a big play guy last year, and it seems like each week Grant and Willie are right there. Are you looking forward to when that finally connects? I think he's had 3 or 4 that were either a half step or off his fingertips or something like that.
Yeah, no. I mean, that first drive that was close. It was, of course, had him open there, but it'll happen. It'll come. Those guys get better every day. The same throw he made to Artie. You know what I mean? I told Willie maybe Artie's a little faster than he is, so Artie was able to go get that ball. But that being said, but Willie, Willie can run. He'll be fine. Okay, guys, you guys have a great day. Thanks.